the environment, the natural world, is taken as limitless, as beyond being harmed. And we used to think that, well, at least the oceans, they won't do. They're killing the oceans. If the oceans die, we all die, because most of our oxygen comes from the oceans. So we have a system that's organized to create disorganization and chaos of production, run by rational captains of finance and industry who are hurtling toward irrational ends. And they're not immune to it. They're not ignoring it. They militantly argue against it. So, certainly the reactionary wing of this capitalist class does. Militantly argues against the tree huggers and these goofy people who think there's global warming happening and all. They go out there and insist. There's a New Yorker cartoon which I have in my book Democracy for the Few. It's a textbook, so you got to put cartoons in it because the students won't read it unless there's pictures or cartoons. That's what we're told. But this New Yorker cartoon shows a man at a business meeting, and he's standing there. There's a table with, other colleagues of the board sitting. You don't see the audience, but you just see him. He's got a little lectern like this one, and he's saying as follows: "So, while the end of the world scenario will be rife with unimaginable horrors, we believe that the pre-end period will be filled with unprecedented opportunities for profits." And that's where they are. These people are driven by the auri sacre fames. I just want to bring a little... It's late enough in the day we can use a little Latin, right? The auri sacre fames is the... Sacra means what? Sacra means cursed, as in sacrilege. Fames means what? In Italian, fame. In French, faim. What does it mean? J'ai faim. Oh, fame. Hunger. That's right. Hungry. The cursed hunger. And auri, what's that symbol on the chemistry chart? AU. What's that symbol? Gold. That's right. The cursed hunger for gold. That these people are driven, and they will drive the... It's like if we're all in one big bus and it's going off a cliff. These guys will be coming up and down the aisle selling you special seat belts, at inflated prices, and really be making the money and bringing it in as the bus goes over and crashes. I'm not kidding. I'm not saying that. I really mean what I just said, and I can prove it to you because they're already reacting that way. Look at some years ago, I said, these guys won't believe there's global warming until the North Pole starts to melt. I remember saying that, never believing the North Pole was going to melt. I didn't say the Arctic, I said the North Pole. So the Arctic is now melting. And they still don't believe it. They still say, oh, it's a natural galactic thing that, the Earth goes through periods and this. But isn't it wonderful? And what do they see? They're not alarmed by the aberrations and the imbalances that are going to occur. They're excited. The two things that they see now is they can drill for oil in all sorts of areas they couldn't before. You see, the Arctic cap, of course they could drill through a mile of ice, it would be nothing, but the damn thing moves, so you would snap your pipelines, you couldn't get to the oil, it wouldn't work. So now this cumbersome thing is getting out of the way, and they're going to drill for oil, the very fuel that is causing all of these meltdowns and all. The second thing they're excited about is what? The Northwest Passage. A dream of 200 years. As older than Lewis and Clark. It was always that dream, searching, where's that Northwest Passage so we don't have to go looping down around the South America or through Panama or whatever else. And now they've got it. They estimate that they can make trips now that used to take 10,000, 15,000 miles. They can do it now in 2,000 or 3,000 miles right across the north part of the globe. And they're excited and happy about that. These guys are crazy, you see. They as I say, they will see any disaster and look for the profitability. There even is a literature of theirs developing about the profitability from global warming, and what are the special services and things and crises, and how can we get in on this and make money out of it. So that becomes a profit pathology. That's not really, that's both systemic to capitalism, and it's also pathological for the people who are doing it. They're crazy. They're nuts. That's the way I see them. And this is not my way of talking. I never usually psychologize about the prominent actors and things. And I've often said, if you start psychologizing, if you start saying, oh, George Bush invaded Iraq because he's competing with his father, and his father wouldn't go in, and this, and you start psychologizing in that way, you're full of crap. You don't know. Chances are you're really totally wrong. You know, George Bush and Rumsfeld and Cheney and all these other guys who were pushing him and saying we got to invade, and the neocons and the Project for a New American Century, they all had fathers they were competing with, or what, you know. And you can see president after president. Each of these presidents has a different personality, different family, different father, different mother, and all that. And yet they all end up pursuing these same goals of expansion and expropriation. Don't tell me it's because of some peculiarity of personality. But here, in contradiction of all of that, I will say to you, there is a profit pathology. These people, at a certain point, you got to say, this is crazy, and these people are crazy. The inmates are in charge of the asylum. To the extent that modern capitalist systems have any human or humane features, it's because of the democratic struggles waged by popular, non-capitalist, working-class forces that fought for the social wage, decent earnings, human services, and an expansion of political democracy. And when I say working class forces, I don't mean just blue-collar, proletariat, factory guys. I mean everybody. If either you own the mother or you work for it. I remember hearing that once from an auto. I was doing strike support work in Carbondale, Illinois, back in the late 60s. And I remember a guy got an African-American worker, and he said, that's what he said. He said, either you own the mother or you work for it. He used a somewhat longer word than mother. So we are all proletariat in some way. Another related thing that has kept capitalism alive, besides this democratic struggle and forced improvement, is socialism. It's a hijacked kind of socialism. The public treasure is a source of immense plunder by the corporate plutocracy. Every year, over $100 billion. This is aside from the bailouts. This was going on before 2008. $100 billion go to big corporations as subsidies, grants and aid, loan guarantees, equity, research and development, special tax write-offs, debt write-offs. Most of you pay more taxes than Exxon. Think about that a minute. Doesn't that make you feel... I guess I am really depressing some people now. I'm depressing myself. So even if you work for a nonprofit and you say, well, I don't have a capitalist boss who exploits me, you're still being exploited as a citizen and as a taxpayer as the corporations relentlessly pillage the public treasury. Capitalism is constantly feeding off socialism. Don't think of capitalism and socialism as two grand epic isms in which that they've clashed and socialism is lost. Think of it as a constant interaction and struggle right here in our own society, right before our very eyes. I remember when I was teaching at State University of New York, and students said, well, what is socialism? I mean, how could socialism work? How would it work? How can any good come of it? And I answered, well, you should know what is socialism. You're attending a socialist institution. Dum, 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 dum. What? And it was. I said, this is a socialist institution. It's publicly supported, nonprofit. It's supported by the taxpayers. It's not for anybody's profit. And you guys are coming here at a very low tuition and such. That's a socialist institution. Socialism, you want to see it? Go visit your local fire department, sanitation department. Actually, I lived in a community back in those days before Bernie Sanders became mayor in Burlington, Vermont, where the sanitation department wasn't socialized. There was no sanitation department. And every single